fan of a deal as much as anybody, but the truth of the matter is I think that we, culturally, just find budget guitars a fascinating thing. What's the lowest point a company can go before you're basically just paying for firewood? I've been mostly surprised by the quality of budget entry-level guitars from major manufacturers. They seem to really have figured it out. I can't say as much about the fly-by-night brands you find on places like Wish, but it's a whole other story. I've tried cheap AF, Jackson, Fender, and even Ibanez guitars, all very playable and passable. But then when I was looking for other companies that offer ultra-budget entry-level guitars, one that I'm very familiar with didn't seem to have any, and that's ESP or LTD, the brand that they use for their more affordable mass-produced guitars. I have a couple LTDs and I really like them. I haven't used them on the channel in a while, but I do think they're really solid guitars. So when I looked to see what the cheapest entry model they had was, I was a little surprised that it was $400, or $399 if you want to be technical about it. Yay, capitalism. I guess you just sort of expect major manufacturers to have an entry point of a couple $100s, but no, not LTD. As of shooting this video, the line of 200DX guitars are their cheapest offering, and the one that I picked for this video is the M series, the LTD M200DX. This is the LTD M200DX. This particular guitar is the Blueburst model. We have a double-cut poplar body with a 25.5-inch scale, ESP LH150 pickups, a bolt-on roasted maple neck with rosewood fingerboard and reverse headstock. The neck profile is listed as thin U, more on that here in the video. We have 24 extra jumbo frets. It's not listed what material this is, but I'm guessing it is nickel. Black hardware, standard LTD tuners, a Tune-O-Matic string-through body bridge, and all of this comes in at $399 US at the time of making this video. Now, I did receive this guitar a couple weeks back. Maybe some of you saw my unboxing video. Okay, there we go. So this is an LTD M200 DXNTBLB. I don't know what all that means, but it's an LTD. I was not super excited when it showed up. It was pretty rough to play. So the first thing we're going to do with this guitar is give it a good setup with new strings before I demo it. And before we get started, this video is not sponsored by LTD. They have nothing to do with it. However, today's video does have a sponsor, and that is Sweetwater and Gator Cable Works. Gator Cable Works makes high quality, low noise cables that are built to withstand the most rigorous of conditions. Like when your drummer steps on your instrument cable and rips it out of your guitar, because despite being very talented and dexterous, he lacks basic motor skills needed for walking or doing most things. In today's video, we're going to use the Headliner series from Gator Cable Works. The Headliner series are the finest cables that Gator has to offer. They're made with oxygen-free copper for pristine signal transfer. The copper conductor also features dense braided shielding to prevent unwanted interference. They also have gold-plated plugs for enhanced conductivity and corrosion resistance. All Headliner cables also feature a rugged and flexible 7mm PVC jacket and heavy-duty connectors. They have these color ID rings that you can swap out, really handy if you are using multiple cables for recording or something like that. The Headliner series offers multiple cable types from XLR speaker and instrument cables. They also come with this neat storage bag, but more importantly, a lifetime guarantee. It says right on the back of the box. I'm actually kind of low-key stoked to use this right angle cable with this quiet switch that makes it so when you plug or unplug your guitar, there's no noise. I haven't had a right angle cable in a really long time. Pretty nice. So thank you so much to Sweetwater and Gator Cable Works for sponsoring this video. You guys know the deal. Use the link down in the description or in the pinned comment. It goes a great way to helping out this channel. I really appreciate it. All right, now that we have all of that out of the way, let's set up this guitar and get to some chugs. Okay, I just got the strings pulled off. I cleaned it up a little bit. A few things I want to mention. The nut here is a little haphazardly cut. I mean, it's not the worst I've ever seen. It's definitely not the best I've ever seen either. And the fretwork, same sort of thing here. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's definitely not the best. There are some sharp edges here that I would like filed down personally. But like right here on the first fret, for example, I can actually feel the tang of the fret in the wood sticking out. Like if you look here on the 11th fret, that fret is filed down pretty well, but then right here on the 12th fret, that's sticking out. These are filed down pretty good. Actually, as we get up past the 12th fret, it becomes less bad. But these first few frets are pretty bad. Again, not unplayable, not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it'd be pretty disingenuous if I didn't at least mention it. Everything else feels okay. These tuning knobs feel more or less okay. The bridge looks fine. There's nothing else that's like striking me at this moment, but let's get strings on it and then let's see what happens from there. If you hit a bad note, just keep going. Like I said earlier in this video, we have the M200, yeah, I should probably figure out the name of this before I say it. We have the LTD M200DX here. You see it? It looks very nice. I really like a lot of things about this guitar, as we will get into in this video. But first things first, let me explain what I have going on here. Normally when I do these reviews, I like to use my Boss Katana because people really want to see budget guitars ran through budget pieces of gear. Today, I'm actually going into the 5150 Iconic in the world of tube amps. I tried to keep the budget aspect in mind. That's why we went with the 5150 Iconic here. I have that plugged into a load box. I forgot my microphone stand at home. So we're gonna have to do the load box and IRs today. I apologize for this. Now, the 5150 Iconic does have a power amp like defeat in it, and you can just run the preamp up, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted the actual full amplifier. So that's why I'm using the load box. Does that make sense to you? And there is an emulated speaker output on the 5150 Iconic, but yeah, we're not doing that. We're just gonna stick with the load box and an IR that I know and love. And if you want to know and love it too, you can get it for free in my Discord. There's a link down there in the description. But yeah, let's just do some more chugs, huh? Now, for those of you out there that just absolutely have to hear this guitar through the cheapest thing possible, we will plug it in, and I will use a free plug-in here in a minute. But for now, we're just gonna use this setup. So basically, ESP LTD has made this their entry point into their line of guitars. And it's an interesting move because it's more expensive than most other manufacturers' entry line. Like, I think that Jackson that I tried out was, let me look now. I think it was less than $200. Yeah, like Jackson has the JS11 series for $160. And I would think that like, oh, okay, well, they're just not getting guitars produced in China. Maybe they're produced in Korea or whatever, but this guitar is produced in China. This is a Chinese-made guitar. Now let's give ESP LTD the benefit of the doubt here. You know, this does have, you know, a little bit higher end specs. Not much, but it does have, you know, some higher end. I mean, you do have the reverse headstock, which is cool. You have the top on this guitar, which is the most striking feature about this guitar. I mean, like, let's give it up for the top again, huh? You know, it is a very, very nice looking body, but just my initial impressions playing it versus playing that Jackson guitar, this one doesn't feel like it has quite the same level of quality control on it, I'm being honest with you. And the main issue that I have with this guitar, just right out of the box, is, you know, some of these tangs for the frets are sticking out a little bit, and it's not bad. It's not the worst I've ever experienced. Like, if you guys remember that headless guitar I tried on Amazon, that was the worst by far. First and most obvious thing, it's very difficult to play just because of the sharp fret edges, and it just like, it's really scratching my hand up. Okay, just pains me thinking about it. Like, this isn't that bad. You know, you could file these down pretty easily. The frets aren't like sticking up or popping out or anything like that. They're all seated in there really well, but you know, it's just like the little things like that. And the difference is, with this guitar being a $399 guitar and that one being a $160 guitar, I just don't feel like the price to feature set is quite there. But we're gonna keep demoing this guitar. Maybe I'll change my tune through the course of this video, who knows. Let's go through the pickups clean sounds here so that way you can hear what these sound like. Here's the bridge. The middle position, which is both pickups. And the bridge. Okay, so to be honest for you, for a budget guitar, I think they sound pretty good. And the toe knob is also a push-pull coil tap. Let's go to the coil tap positions here. That was the bridge, here's the middle. And the neck. So for an entry-level guitar, the pickups actually sound pretty good, and you do have a wide variety of things you can do with them since you have the coil tap there as well. So something to keep in mind as we move on through this video. Let's go back to channel 2. Let's turn the noise gate off on this as well. There's really not a lot of noise with these pickups either. And keep in mind, I'm in a studio with some very bright lights, so just primed for electronic interference in a way. Let's go to the coil tap though. Quite a bit more noise with the coil tap. Let's turn the noise gate back up here. I'm not mad at the way this guitar sounds at all. I think it actually sounds pretty good. It plays pretty good too. The neck profile here is pretty like run of the mill. It's always weird when different companies have sort of different terminology for their neck profiles. Like if you called this a thin C shaped neck, I would say, okay. You know, if you called it a thin D, I would say, yeah, that's fine. They call it a thin U. It's pretty thin. It's definitely not a chunky neck by any stretch of the imagination. Like it feels very good to play, minus the fret tangs that we talked about earlier. That can be fixed. Now in terms of like budget metal guitars, I tried the Ibanez a while back. You remember the one that had the reverse headstock too? Pretty metal guitar. I think in terms of the differences between these guitars, it's really like, you know, up to what aesthetically you like more. They both play pretty similarly. I think that the Ibanez has maybe a little bit of a thicker neck, but you know, Ibanez guitar necks are just a little bit different in general. They're a little bit wider. The bridge is not my favorite thing either. I think it would have been better if they put a hardtail bridge on this guitar. That's just me. Maybe you like these style of bridges, but I just think that like, they just add a lot of extra noise to your signal. Okay, I'm gonna plug this guitar directly into my interface and then I'm gonna use a free plugin. I don't know what free plugin I'm gonna use yet. I'm probably gonna poll you guys while I'm editing this video and I will put in the plugin that you are actually hearing on the screen. So fun thing, while I was setting up for the shot, I plugged this guitar directly into the 𝐒𝐏𝐿 input on my Apollo Twin Duo. And if you don't know what that is, let me just explain it really quick. The 𝐒𝐏𝐿 input is basically an input made for guitars. It's at, you know, guitar level, so you don't have to adjust level or anything like that. You just plug in, it's good to go. When I did that, these pickups were way too hot. They were actually clipping the interface. So I had to run this into the line input so that I could actually pad the input and get these at like an appropriate level. And before you say it, I tried to adjust the pickup. With the pickup rings in here, these pickup rings raise these pickups quite a bit. And I lowered them as much as I could before I could feel the threads slipping off, you know, the actual pickup base, whatever thing the screw goes into. You know, they are all the way lowered and they're still pretty close to the strings, still super hot, so just FYI, that's what I had to do to get this to work. I gotta switch up guitars here for just 1 second just to see what's going on. This is a Solar X1.6 that has Fishman Fluence Moderns in it. I just had to test it out for myself. I don't think it's the guitar. You know, sometimes when you're demoing these budget guitars, it's kind of hard to tell like how much of it is the guitar and what's going on versus some other variables outside of your control. So that's why I got out another guitar to check it. And I'm glad I did because it actually made this guitar sound much better to me, comparing it to something that I know and I'm very familiar with. And we're staying mostly in tune for this video. I have had to tune up a few times. Nothing, you know, weird, nothing out of the ordinary with new strings or whatever. All in all, I think I can get to my opinion on this guitar. I think that this guitar, it's a very interesting one. It's actually a very difficult one to give my opinion on because of the price that it comes in comparative to other things that are out there right now. I think that if LTD had a cheaper entry model, and then you looked at this and you're like, wow, this is an upgrade because you have the roasted maple neck, you have the reverse headstock, maybe nicer electronics. Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier, but there is like a nice sort of cutaway at the heel here that does make it easier to get this upper fret access. It's still a little bit blocky there. It's not the best cutaway, but you know, at least it's something. At least it's not just a blocky heel. But the fact that it's like their entry price point kind of doesn't make sense. And I think that that's like my main contention with this guitar is like, if you wanted to play an LTD, ESP, or whatever, I mean, you are looking at spending $400 on a guitar that like feels very much like an entry guitar in a lot of ways. Like I said, you do have the roasted maple neck, you do have the reverse headstock, but that feels like you're just putting makeup on a cheap guitar. Does that make sense to anyone out there? Like, I feel like they're very cool things, but you know, the guitar was not set up that great. We have really sharp fret ends, like I said, and you know, when you have Jackson out there making the JS11, I think that's like the best comparison to this guitar because, you know, it's an entry-level guitar for a company that's known for metal guitars. That guitar was just so much nicer. It was just so much like the quality, like the QC on it was so much nicer. Like, it didn't have any sharp fret ends. It was really easy to play right out of the box. It felt great. Maybe the electronics weren't good, and we clearly have some upgraded aesthetics with this guitar. Again, the roasted maple neck, the reverse headstock, the top. The top is like the main feature. Can I talk about this top enough? It is beautiful, but that's what you're paying for. You're paying for those aesthetics, and in a lot of ways, this feels like less of a quality guitar in terms of just its playability than the Jackson did. So I know I might be coming across a little bit negative with this guitar. I have really enjoyed playing it. I've really enjoyed my time playing it. I just want to make it really clear that I think that if you are interested in buying one of these guitars, that the main thing that you should be interested in is the aesthetics, because I think that's the best thing that it has going for it. And I think that's why it's priced where it is instead of maybe like $250 or somewhere in there. Hopefully that makes sense. Maybe I'm being ridiculous. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Shout out to Sweetwater and 𝐲𝐻𝐿TDE for sponsoring this video, but more importantly, shout out to you for being here with me. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button. If you really like what I do here on this channel, consider subscribing or being super OP and joining these beautiful people over here over on Patreon, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.